Hey guys, it's Chad from A Better Edge. About 22 years doing business here in Colorado Springs, and I've been asked to explain some of the differences between what A Better Edge is and how it's developed over the years compared to just a standard landscape curb. And I just wanted to share some of the thoughts that I have on my mind with you. And this is non-scripted. I'm just kind of getting it off the top of my head. And I'll tell you that whenever we started, we purchased a curb machine that lays landscape curbing. And we thought, okay, if we get this curb machine, that's going to be like the ticket, right? Well, we quickly found that when we started running that curb machine, we're like, okay, we don't really know anything about concrete. And if depending on how the mix is set up, it's going to come out of the machine quite differently from one mix to the next. And depending on the terrain that we're working with, are we just out in the grass? Are we on dirt? Are we going next to a sidewalk? Like all these details that multiplied the difficulty of what we were doing. So it really took us quite a while going back to more and more training to try to get a handle on how to do things. And then finally, I got a mentor who really helped me understand concrete and how our particular system works as opposed to other types of concrete and how it works. So the curb machine itself that we use to extrude the borders is simply one of the tools that we use to do the job of putting in the A Better Edge system. So we could use forms and form up the concrete. And forms are really handy when you're doing like a very straight line and you want the height to be super consistent, because you can set like those forms on the side, you can set them to be perfect. And then the top is going to have that nice height consistent. And then whatever's going on underneath is just happening, but you don't really see that because that top is done. Whereas with a curb machine, it's quite different. The curb machine, the way it works is it's traveling with all the inconsistencies of the ground. So once you kind of get a grasp of what is really happening with that curb machine, you realize that the prep work that goes on behind the scenes or that goes on first plays a huge role in the final outcome. So if a person doesn't really understand how to lay out good lines or how to prep the ground properly for that curb machine, you could end up with lines that really have a skewed appearance. Or you might have, something like a weird bump or a dip or something that you just, when you look at the job, you say, okay, I understand what that's supposed to be, but I'm not sure why I don't like it, right? So the untrained eye would say, I'm not sure why I don't like that. And when you get to know it and you'll see one job from the next, you say, okay, I really realize that I like this one. I realize I don't like this one. Why? What's the difference? And a lot of it is simply time in the saddle of understanding how things work and how to make things work. And people can get trained, and we train people across the country. We're one of the elite trainers that's sought after to help guys get to the next level of their business. So we do that. We help people understand the mix design that they need for their climate, because here we are in Colorado, and we had, this is February 15th, and we got like a lot of snow on the ground. It's windy and kind of blustery outside. But last week we had like in the 60s and huge fluctuations back and forth. And this past winter was a super cold one. So lots of temperature fluctuations. So we need to understand how to design and engineer a mix design that's going to last for the climate that we are pouring at. And it's not just something that's standard, from one state to the next or one location to the next. And then we also have engineered our alloys that we put in the cement. We've engineered that mixture with those alloys and other additives to be sure that it's giving us the results that we want to get. So one thing that I've noticed really huge difference between when we first started doing what we do, just typical landscape curbing, to what A Better Edge is now, is the mix design is quite different. And the resulting textures, the resulting consistency of color, the resulting just overall natural appearance, so that it looks much more like it's supposed to be in the yard than something that was added later. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a really nice frame for a beautiful landscape. So we're not full landscapers, right? So we're not taking a full landscape and trying to create this beautiful thing. What we're trying to do is just take what's already a beautiful poster and turn it into a beautiful picture by adding that nice frame. Now, that beautiful frame is also something that protects that work of art that's inside. So you've taken what was a poster and made it into a beautiful work of art that you can put on the wall. That's similar to what A Better Edge is doing in the beauty of it, but it's also doing that protective aspect of holding in the materials and helping to stop grass encroachment. The grass encroachment factor for what we do is also very important to me. So when we're prepping, A Better Edge is most often prepped quite deeper than the standard systems that are out there. And we also use a much taller border, meaning we use more concrete. In other words, we dig the trench deeper, therefore filling more concrete in the trench. So the result is something that is a better root barrier and is more robust for using a lawnmower, using a weed whacker, using whatever you're going to do to that curbing. Even if you have the commercial mower or you have a place where you're going to drive over the concrete because you want to park your trailer, your boat or something behind there. We have all of these methods used depending on the job to make sure that the results are what you want it to be. And those are huge. So the biggest differences that I'm going to tell you that you'll see is it's based on time in the saddle. It's based on how much prep is actually going in, because prep is a huge portion of any project. What you do to prepare to make that project successful is huge. And then the mix design and the resulting appearance based on how we go about doing what we do. And again, lots of people are asking me to train them because they want to learn, how do I make my edge look like yours? Even though I have this similar or same machinery, similar or same toolings, how come I can't make it look like that, right? So guys are asking to be trained on that. So those are a few things. We have a lot of experience, right? And we've trained a lot of guys and helped a lot of guys do better in their projects. But what we do often takes a lot longer than what the standard is. So I have a dear friend who has a business not in Colorado Springs, outside. And he said, what we do is we basically just either they'll use like a weed whacker and cut the grass, or they will just use a bed edger and barely cut the grass out to like a trencher and just barely cut the grass out to put their curb in. And then they leave whatever is behind. So if you have let's say you have an island that has mulch or rock in it, and then there's a metal or plastic edge or brick or whatever on the outside of that, and then you have your grass with sprinkler heads. So what they're doing to try to save clients money, and it makes sense, especially for people who are like a do-it-yourselfer, is they'll come outside of those sprinkler heads, cut their trench in the grass, a very small trench, so that they don't have a whole lot to take out, and then and haul off, and then they'll put their concrete right there. So the result is that you have a border that's there that looks nice, but then you have sprinkler heads that have to be adjusted or raised or moved, and then you have grass behind that edge that needs to be killed, cut out, pulled out, whatever, and then you have rock behind that, or mulch or whatever. They're probably gonna have to add more to bring over to where the new edge is, right? So that's kind of the do-it-yourselfer's way of hiring someone, is like, just go, don't worry about sprinklers, don't worry about moving existing stuff or whatever, just give me a nice border, and that would be like the best price scenario. So then kind of the next step, that's a good, right? And then the better would be, let's say, okay, I'm going to just push all of the rock back out of the way, or the mulch back out of the way, and I'm going to put my curb in there, and that's obviously better, because now you don't have that extra grass to pull out, and you don't necessarily have to add rock back in because you have the rock there. The best scenario is the one that we try to do, what we've been bidding for our clients for years, and that is where we come in and we'll spend time helping the homeowner decide, like, do we like the lines where they are? Is there anything that we need to change based on what's going on with the yard? Trees grow, shrubs grow, root systems come up, all types of things that we deal with on a regular basis. Do we need to change that? Okay, so let's reshape our lines. Well, we have very, very good lines. One of the things that separates us from others is the super good lines that we lay out. And then the prep work of actually getting that line prepped the way that it should be so that the resulting border looks the way that it should without all the craziness. And so then we're cutting out, like let's say we do reshape that bed and enlarge it. We're actually going to cut out all of the sod that's in behind there. And then we're going to have the sprinkler, either my guys or we'll hire a landscape or a sprinkler guy, have them move the sprinkler heads to where they need to be, and then bring in rock or mulch or whatever that needs to go to reshape that island. So that's kind of like the good, better, best scenario. Our goal has always been to just provide our clients with everything that they need to be happy and not have to spend the next several weekends or months getting everything replaced behind the edging, because that just didn't make sense to me. Now, we do have people that we absolutely love working with that are do-it-yourselfers, and they're like, no, I'll move the sprinkler heads, I'll put in the rock, I'll put in the mold, whatever, and that's fantastic. We've had some guys we worked with this last summer that was so much fun to do, because we'd be out there doing our thing and they're moving sprinkler heads and we're having a nice time chatting together. But most often what we're attempting to do is kind of that full package deal. So we offer kind of a good, better, best scenario. But even at the good level, the lower level of us trenching and not taking out extra sod, moving sprinklers and stuff, the border system itself, so on all of those levels, the border system itself is the absolute best border system on the planet. You're not going to get anything that looks as nice, has the PSI certified like ratings from, we had it tested, has the robustness of the size as far as depth in the ground, or the resulting appearance from all of the different types of coloration that we know how to do, and the overall look is so nice. It doesn't look like someone took concrete and put a cookie sheet or something in it to give you impressions. What we do, especially when we do our stone work, it looks like stone. So it's all one continuous run, but it looks like individual pieces of stone, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It frames the yard beautifully. It creates a border system that helps to contain everything around it. So if I'm asked, like, how does a better edge differentiate itself from standard curbing companies or standard curbing, those are the main reasons. It's stuff that's actually tangible, and you can see it in the results of what the work looks like when you look at one job to the next. So anyway, I hope that has helped in some fashion. And again, it's just coming right off the cuff. I don't have this scripted. One thing that I would be careful of if you are getting bids, wherever you are, and we're people nationwide are going to see this. So when you're getting a bid for landscape curbing, which is kind of the industry term for what we do, we've set ourselves out by saying a better edge is this. Landscape curbing is in the same industry, but not exactly the same because of the way that we've developed it. But if you're getting a bid for landscape curbing, a couple things that you're going to want to know and you're going to want to really see and understand. What is the overall size of the border that you're going to put in? So the standard for like a stamped border, it'll have like an angled face or a square like this. Most often it's kind of an angled taper, skinny side towards the grass most often, then up to the taller side on the rock. Most companies call it a 6x4 is kind of their jargon. It's a 6x4. When you actually set a measurement on that, the front of that grass side I've seen as low as like an inch, and the back side as low as like 2.5 inches, with a 5 or 6 inch width on the thing. Very, very small, very prone to breaking, and almost none of it in the ground. It's just kind of sitting on the grass, right? So if that's what you want, because you just need that border in there, then great. But it's not going to give you the same results that a system like a Better Edge is going to give you. So Our standard tapered front is 3 inches by 5, I think it's 5 3/4. I'd have to measure it exact. It's about between 5.5 and 6 inches tall on the high side with that taper across the middle. The width is about 7. So it's overall bigger, but deeper in the ground to help stop that grass encroachment. We have different sizes for sure. You could go skinnier, but again, I'm not gonna suggest someone go with something super thin and skinny because it's just prone to breaking. So if you want skinnier, you need to go deeper in the ground. It's pretty simple. And we can do all of that depending on what the results are that the client wants. Another huge thing that you're going to want to ask is, especially if you're going to lay this border system next to like a sidewalk, a driveway, if it's going to bump into the driveway or the sidewalk at any point and come out into the yard, or if it's going to run like on top of or next to a sidewalk or a driveway for any point, you really need to know how is that company going to accommodate keeping the sidewalk and the driveway clean. It's so important. Because I've seen people hire someone that they thought, okay, this is the best price, and they assumed they were getting the same thing that they were getting from somewhere else that was a higher price. But the result was they put it next to their sidewalk, like along the sidewalk. The sidewalk was trashed. The concrete's sitting partway on the sidewalk. Like sometimes it's like 2 inches off, sometimes it's like 2 inches on the sidewalk, color all over the sidewalk, sealer all over the sidewalk, a complete mess. And like, I don't know, maybe just the homeowner didn't understand what they were looking at the results, so it can really ruin the overall appearance of a house by doing it incorrectly and causing a whole lot of heartache and work for the homeowner. So you really need to know, how is that company going to keep the sidewalk and the driveways clean any place that the concrete is bumping up to or running next to it. It's extremely important. The other thing that you want to ask whenever you're on a bid is, are the pictures that you're showing me your actual work? Can I go maybe see a job or two that you've done? Now, when we started, this has been over 22 years ago, we took pictures from the people that manufactured the machine that we were using. And we showed them to people. We said, hey, here's pictures of landscape curbing in another part of the planet, not our work, but so this is the result that we're attempting to do. We want to give you, the best that we can, but you have to know that we're brand new, right? So that was kind of how we started, showing pictures of other people's work. So you want to just be careful that if they are showing you a picture of someone else's work, that you know that that's a picture of someone else's work, and they're not misrepresenting themselves by saying, I can do this because this I've already done, right? Maybe they would say, my attempt is going to be to do this, and this is kind of how I'm going to go about that. And I think that's fantastic to help a new business get started. But just be knowledgeable that people do misrepresent themselves. And we need to make sure that we understand what's actually going to happen in our yard. So another question that you might ask, so we talked about what's the actual size of the border, what's the prep work that's going to happen for this job, how deep's the trench going to be, what is the homeowner going to be left with when it's over, what work do I need to do after you leave, will there be haul off of material, will there be cleanup of stuff that you left in my yard, or cement where you washed your machinery out in my grass, or something of this nature? Anything like, is the sidewalk, am I going to have to hire a pressure washing company or an overlay company or whatever to come in and clean up? And you're like, what's the process that the homeowner's left with? Do I need to hire a landscaper to come back in and move sprinkler heads and put rock and mulch and all of that back in? Or is this a out the door kind of deal? You'll get everything prepped, you'll pour it, you'll finish it, you'll put everything back together, and when I come home, it's beautiful. So that's our goal at A Better Edge, is that you just come home and smile on your face because it's done. So hopefully that helps understand some of the uniqueness between what A Better Edge does and what other people do. Mixed design is absolutely huge. We have very high PSI ratings, ASTCM standards, and we have most often natural, sometimes synthetic oxides for colorants, and there's other various things that are going into the mix design to make it what it needs to be for our climate. And the resulting finish, the overall look, you can just see it from one job to the next. And the cleanup, those are big ones. So hopefully all of that helps. And sorry the video was so long, but I think it's important. It's important, right? You need to know what it is you're getting into when you're making an investment, because you could be investing $2,000 and be super unhappy, or you could invest, maybe you invested $3,000 and you were like, this is the best thing. I can't believe that only $3,000 made this big of an improvement in my house. So you need to understand that just because something's cheaper doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same thing for less. Because a lot of what this industry does is artistry and time in the saddle. Hopefully that helped you guys. Have a great day. Cut like a